It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. Peter didn't get the memo about managing expectations, so you got to manage expectations. But I don't say that as though I mean, oh, be worried. No, be worried if we don't win next fall. And I'm going to run through some prepared remarks, and I want to answer whatever questions you have, because we are going to flip the House for the first time in a 2-year presidential cycle since 1952. And we can get into why. So you understand that at the National Republican Congressional Committee, it's our job to get Republicans across the country elected to Congress. And as I was just going into, you can't overstate the importance of the 2020 election. We have a choice. We have a choice to make. Voters have a choice to make. The choice is pretty simple. Do we want freedom or do we want socialism? Now, some of you know, because I know you've been doing this for a long time, it's like that seems just a little dramatic, Emmer. That seems a little bit over the top. I'll just tell you that I don't come from the Northeast. I didn't grow up on the coast, either the West Coast, or they call it the left coast, or the Northeast, where the whole world rotates. I don't know if you know this, but we can have a blizzard in Minnesota and nobody hears about it. But I'll tell you what, you get a storm on the horizon, and we all hear about it for like 10 days. By the way, I'm still convinced, and there should be a government oversight committee to do this, we need to find out who is funding the Weather Channel, because I believe it's the liquor industry and the grocery industry that's doing it. But we can get into that in a minute. But it is this simple. Remember that we have people who were elected in the last cycle that they didn't choose to use Bernie Sanders' term of democratic socialism. They came in and proudly pronounced, "We are the socialists." And if you have any concern whatsoever as to whether I'm credible in this regard, go look up the website for Justice Democrats. That's all you have to do. Look up the website and you will see that my grandfather's Democrat Party, because there's nothing democratic in it, okay? The Democrat Party of today that my grandfather loved so dearly is dying. They want to fundamentally change the Democrat Party to the Socialist Party of America. It is that big a choice. The Socialist Democrats, which is what we call them, I'm not going to choose, I had a politician a few years back when I said, what is all this green stuff? And by the way, before you go, oh, he's another one of those, we have to have a value proposition for voters when it comes to the environment. Republicans have to do that. We can't just say it doesn't exist, it's not true, we got to start having a value proposition. But that's not why I'm telling you the story. I had a politician in Minnesota, very well known, who I said, what's all this green stuff you're doing? I don't understand what you're doing. He said, Tom, it's a marketplace of ideas out there. We got to take their words and we got to market our ideas. I disagree. I disagree strenuously. We have to market our ideas with our words. And we have to get everybody outside to be repeating back to us what our words are. Because that's when you know that you've actually not only landed the message, but they've absorbed it and they're actually, they're on board. So we're not going to use their terms. We're going to call them what they are. And if you saw our messaging, and I give Chris Pack and his team a lot of credit for this, if you saw the messaging that his team was doing at the beginning of this cycle after I got this job, we started with the New Socialist Democrats. We used their word. By the way, you'll remember they were very proud of calling themselves socialists in the beginning. Do you remember when that changed? So we started with New Socialist Democrats, and we were going to use this term for about 6 months. Then we're going to drop new, and it's just going to be the Socialist Democrats. And the goal is by the time we get to next November and people are going in to cast their ballot, they need to understand. One side wants to control your life. The other side wants you to control your life. It's that simple a choice. If you'll remember, and I'm just going to take a little meander off to the side, we started this, and we can show you the timeline, and we started hammering on it. State of the Union a year ago, the president rolled out a little test thing for the first time. America will never be a socialist country. And then within a couple of weeks, I think it was CPAC when he totally embraced it, because they saw what we saw. Socialism doesn't sell. You're all worried about young people, and you should be, both of us. Our public education hasn't exactly done the job that we would hope. Neither have we, by the way. But if you look at voters 35 years old and younger, 50% of those voters, they like the term socialism. Now, that was great news when I heard it a year ago. Why? Because I thought we'd already lost 100% of them. We've got 50% of them already. We got to work on the other 50%. The issue is the term socialism appeals to their, what's the term I'm looking for? It appeals to their social justice inclination. You just have to explain to them, and you have to do it in a very efficient way, that socialism is not what they think it is. Socialism literally is government taking away their choices, and their choices, that is what makes freedom. So anyway, this is how we have characterized them. You can see on the timeline where the White House adopted it. You can see where Mitch McConnell adopts it. And what's most interesting is you can also see when the Democrats stopped using the term. And it was sometime, Chris, late February, early March of last year, where they actually, Bernie Sanders is the gift that just keeps on giving because he refuses to give it up. But the other ones have essentially stopped using it. These socialist Democrats want government-run health care that'll kick millions of people off their insurance plans and leave us with higher costs, worse care, and no choice. Again, that's the issue. It's about choice. They want to abolish private and employer-sponsored health insurance and double people's income taxes. We've all seen it during these incredible debates. The policies they are advocating do not represent mainstream America. When you have every candidate on the debate stage raising their hand to give free health care to illegal immigrants, that's a major problem for them. But that's what my grandfather's Democrat Party has become, and it's not going to sell. They want to remake America, the America we all know and love. And in the process, they want to eliminate choices, as I've said. Democrats want to dictate every aspect of our lives. With the Green New Deal, they want government to take over the economy. They want to tell you what car you can drive, what house you can live in, and what job you can have. They want to tell you that you can't eat hamburgers. It goes on and on. And I'm gonna stop there because I'm gonna tell you, when we get there, it's about candidates. Yes, it will be about resources. They will have more resources. But it's also going to be about what the two sides are offering. Now, our job at the NRCC in the first year is to define the other side. And we've done that extremely well so far. In fact, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but apparently I've gotten under some people's skin on the other side of the street, a few blocks away, because now they're trying new tactics, which are tactics that they like to use with lawyers and everything else. Pretty sad. Pretty sad when you have nothing to offer except argument. On our side, you're going to start to see this year, it's about not only continuing to define who they are, but it's about the value proposition. What do Republicans offer? Remember, we have the best economy that we could ever have hoped for, and it's going to get better. This deal that gets signed today with China, hopefully the USMCA gets through the Senate quickly into the president's desk. There are some great things that are going to happen to improve the economy further over the next few months. And then we don't know what Mr. Dunham is going to be reporting out from his investigation, his criminal investigation. But all of that could happen yet in the next 6 months as well. So here's where we're at. Last year, Democrats at the DCCC, they outraised us. They raised $125 million. We raised $85 million. Our digital, I'm going to give you some great news. Our digital, we made a decision because I talked to Devin Nunes after I got this job, and Devin's convinced, and I was actually convinced already, but I want to know how he was doing it. He told me, you got to have a strong digital fundraising operation, not just WinRed, but the NRCC. And it's the only way, you got to have it for your campaign too, because it's the only way we as Republicans are going to survive. You got to start raising money online. So Lyman Munschauer is an incredible talent at the NRCC. He wrote a memo a year ago. He said, we're going to have to invest in this. And if all goes well, I think we probably lose a small amount, maybe 3 to 5%, but it'll be worth it by the end of the year. Pretty amazing. By the end of the year, the return on investment is about 70%. We didn't lose money. We made money. And by the way, we raised $22 million last year on our digital program, and it's only going to grow. You saw what WinRed has just done in its short time. It's done over $100 million. So, by the way, I hope some of you bought. We don't sell anything. We give things, but I hope you got some Trump Christmas wrapping paper. I think we became the largest Christmas wrapping paper distributor in the Northeast because of that promotion, which generated a 7-figure number. Incredible. These guys are doing amazing work. On the recruit, and I will put up a red flag. The one red flag that we're going to start hitting in the next 2 weeks, if you read about it, our members need to get their act together and raise more money. The individual campaigns need to raise more money. They cannot expect somebody else is going to do it for them, and they're going to hear that from me when we come back after the break and we see all the final numbers. That's the one issue that I think we're going to have over the next quarter is getting these guys moving. Because, look, Republicans were in the minority for 40 years around this place. And I wasn't here, but I'm going to guess it was because, one, they didn't want to fight, and two, they didn't want to work. And I'm smearing a bunch of great reputations from way back. But the only way you're going to do this is if you're willing to put in the effort and you're willing to work your tail off to win it back. They're helping us all they can, but we can't expect them to do all the work. We got to do ours. So the other great news, we have approximately, and I've got the numbers in my notes here, but we've got just less than 1,000 candidates running across the country right now as Republicans. You want to know if people are energized out there? By the way, we know they are. I was talking to Devin Nunes, who just got a poll back in his district last week, and he confirmed it's the same thing for him. The polling is showing intensity numbers for Republicans and Democrats to be still at levels that we would expect to see just a month out from an election. Independents have slid back. Independents are going about their lives. Independents are pretty frustrated with the lack of things happening here in Washington, D.C. and the focus totally on this impeachment process. But they'll wake up as we get closer to the election like they usually do. And then the key is you have to win those independents if you're going to win back your majority. The 1,000 candidates, approximately, the great news, we've got almost 190 women running as Republicans across this country. The previous high was 133. And these are great women. You've met some of them. Michelle Fishbach is in town today from Minnesota 7. You've met Beth Van Dyne, the former mayor of Irving, who's in Kenny Marchant's seat. I can point to a whole bunch of these women, strong, powerful women that are able to take a message out and make it stick. And they're raising money. We're going to have to do more, but some of these candidates are doing a heck of a job. We also have a record number of minority candidates. And some of you have met some of our best. Wes Hunt. I'm going to guess a lot of you have met Wes Hunt. No, not yet, Peter? You would love Wes Hunt. This guy, he raised $1 million. First-time candidate down in Houston, the H.W. Bush seat, and he raised $1 million. So it starts with good candidates. We got great candidates. And then it starts with, it is what we're going to do with them. And I'm going to finish it with this and turn it over to you. One of the mistakes I was told from the last cycle, and by the way, I owe Steve Stivers, and all of us do, a huge debt of gratitude. Because I'm going to tell you that if Steve Stivers and his team hadn't done what they did, we always talk about how we were 106,000 votes away from holding our majority. What we don't talk about is we were almost the same amount if we would have had 100,000 plus the other way. We would have lost 20 more seats. Because remember all those seats that were in the margin. We won some of those. So without their work, this could have been a much steeper hill to climb back, all right? The one thing that we didn't do, it was the IE. And I don't know if you guys remember, I hope you do, watching CLF what they were doing. They were forecasting, we're going to play in these 5 races now, and then the NRCC's IE would post, we're pulling out of these and we're moving to those. That should never happen. Those of you that have done this, you know that you should never be forecasting this. You should never. Mike Bishop was up by 3 points when I think it was CLF, it might have been our guys, but I think it was CLF, announced they were pulling out of his district. They were taking the money and putting it elsewhere. You know what that said to his donors? You know what that said to his campaign volunteers? It said they don't believe it and they're pulling out. That will not happen this time. The other thing that won't happen, I'm told by the IE folks that we were peddling stories. The Republican IE was peddling stories for content, sourced content, in August and September, July, August, September of the election year. Remember when I started, I said your job is to define who they are in this year. Well, this is where it started. And you can look around at the stuff we've been doing. I won't answer any questions about California 25, and I wouldn't know if we were there, but it's unfortunate that none of you are ever going to hear the story of the dead body that was found on Katie Hill's property. But that's I can only say that. I can only say that because a political reporter actually went to one of our members and brought this up to him, and he came to me and he said, "Is it true that there was a dead body on Katie Hill's property?" And I said, "Where'd you hear that?" "Well, a political reporter just told me," and I said, "Yes, it's true." What just disturbed me to no end is Politico knew it the whole time, and they wouldn't report it. Okay, but we won't comment on California 25. We will comment on David Valadeo's race, for instance. T.J. Cox has been on the front page of the Fresno paper, 5 times? 6 times? Are we up to 7?
Almost.
Okay. But I mean, for all kinds of tax liens and lawsuits, judgments, and I mean, he's got pending stuff, an investigation, allegedly. This stuff has to be done this year. Because you know what? You got a lot of people who won seats in a wave election that were never vetted. That material will be available, and it'll be interesting to see how it comes to play in the upcoming election. So I finish with this. We need 20 seats. Now that Jeff Van Drew has become a Republican, I think he always was pretty much a Republican. Trump won that district by 4.5 points, and the reason he flipped ultimately is because all of his support group turned on him. Nobody would help him. They basically shunned him. So he had one place to go. We've brought him in with open arms, and he's going to be a great addition to the Republican conference. But we need 20 seats with him. Now remember, we've got 55 targeted races. The top 30, Trump won 2 years ago. The top 13, he won by 6 points or more. I can give you the cute little thing about Ruby Red and, opportunity districts. I'm just going to say bluntly, because our guys will tell you our goal is if we win 10 of the 13 of the Ruby Red. No. Our goal is we're going to win 13 of 13 of the Ruby Red seats. Those are Republican seats. Take a look at them. We're going to win Oklahoma 5. That's our seat. We're going to win New York 22. We're going to win on Staten Island. These are our seats. Now, if you want to be conservative, you can say, okay, Emmer, I'm going to tell you you're going to have a couple that you lose, so we'll give you 10, okay? Now, we get 9, 10, 11 out of the remaining, 18 seats in the top 30. Entirely doable with the candidates that we've got. And then you've got the next 20 that have seats in them that Republicans have held in recent past, Kevin Yoder's, for example, that Hillary did win. These are seats that we can win, and we have candidates that are capable of doing it. At that point, do the math. You only need 4, 5, or 6 of those. This is incredibly doable, and I'll stop here by saying, think about it. It went for 40 years in the wilderness, coming out in 1994. Now in the last 12 years, the House has flipped 3 times. If you study history and look back prior to 1952, you will see that the House used to regularly flip. There are stories of speakers, outgoing speakers, telling an incoming speaker, or vice versa, just keep the offices. We're not going to move because we'll probably have to do it again in 2 years. I believe we have reached a period in this country where we are so divided, and it is so intense, that we're going to have that start to repeat itself until somebody figures out how to govern and do it right. I believe we are going to get that chance after next November with your help, and then we're going to have to perform. But I love the Ripon Society. It's the one thing that my wife Jackie and I truly enjoy because, as Jackie says, you know, Tom, every time I go out to Washington and I see Jim and the people that belong to the Ripon Society, those people are so normal compared to the other ones. So you can hold her, except for you, Lou. You're the only one that she doesn't. But we'll talk about that offline. Jim, any questions?
Have time for
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Tom.